So I wanted to make a video about microphones. And I wanted to make a video about microphones because, I mainly got into audio equipment because I would make a lot of YouTube videos. And I noticed I didn't like the sound of my YouTube videos. They sounded bad. They sounded colored. They sounded funky. They sounded piercing. They sounded nasally. They sounded low detailed. They had all these problems. And it's because of the microphones that I was using. And for a long time, I started trying to process my audio to try to make it sound better. And that didn't work. And, there's a ton of microphones out there at tons of different price points. And there's a reason why you see the Shure SM7B used so frequently, because it has really natural mids. The treble is nasally and stuffy and, all mangled and dark, and, the mids are pretty good, though. They sound pretty transparent and natural, more than the majority of microphones out there. So I spend a large majority of my time listening to microphones, looking at the frequency response of them. And you'll notice that, 99.999% of microphones have lumpy, colored, funky mids on the frequency response. The frequency response is just all jittery. And it ends up sounding gargled and mangled when you talk into the microphone. The mids just have these lumps that just gargle the sound, and it makes it fatiguing to listen to. Over time it makes it just funky. And I remember making so many YouTube videos, and I would listen back to my recordings, and it just sounded terrible. And I remember I would start listening to some of the voice actors and video games that I was commentating over, like the characters talking in the game. And, they were using things like the Neumann U87, the Neumann TLM, which, in my opinion, are some of the best sounding microphones in the world, And there's so many different microphones out there by all these different companies, and they're so colored. They're so funky. They're so unnatural that it's just distasteful. It's distracting. And, struggling to find a microphone that sounds transparent, that sounds like me, that sounds flattering was very, very difficult. And there's not nearly as many options as I personally would like. You get an AT2020. Let's say an Audio-Technica AT4040. It has a huge 6.5 kilohertz peak. You look at the AKG C414XL2, XLS, especially they give you a frequency response chart for your particular microphone, and it's just lumpy above 1 kilohertz, and it just sounds mangled. You look at a Rode NT1A, a Rode NT2A, the frequency response is just up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And it just sounds gargled, blunted, mangled, colored. It's terrible, So I spend a lot of my time listening to microphones, and, I can't buy any because they sound bad. They sound colored. They sound funky. Some of them need way too much gain. Some of them have really high self noise. And, the Neumann TL103 microphones are literally the only microphones that I've ever owned that I actually think sound good. The only microphones in the world that I actually, that sounds crazy. Can I tolerate other people using different microphones? Yeah. The RE20 has this 3 kilohertz peak, and then it's scooped out on either sides in the high mids. The SM7B has a chewed up treble, But anyway, these microphones, ultra sensitive, ultra low self noise, completely transparent mids, smooth, open, clear treble. They sound flattering. They sound like me. They sound good. these things, these bad boys right here. These are the only microphones in the world. And I used to make videos saying, it would be terrible, if these microphones stopped being produced because they're so damn good. Some people think they're a budget option to the U87. They're delusional. This is a modern iteration of it. Brighter, clearer, more musical, more sparkly, less nasal. They're the only microphones that I will ever really want to use. And I'm just making this video because, I got into microphones and headphones and stuff because, I made a lot of recordings. I made a lot of videos. And I got sick of listening back to my equipment and just being, disappointed and annoyed that all of my videos sounded terrible. And the Xbox went bloop because the controller died again. But yeah. So anyway, that's all I really wanted to say on this video. Microphones are a terrible hobby. Headphones are a terrible hobby. The large majority of them sound lumpy and funky and garbage. And people like, what other equipment would you use if you couldn't use the Biodynamic DT990s or the Neumann TLM 103? What other microphones would I use besides the Neumanns or the Bayers? Well, thank God this equipment exists. This is the reason why I end up buying multiples of this crap. Because if they ever stop producing it, it's a downgrade. It sounds worse, and I wouldn't enjoy using it. So, you always have to have faith that they'll produce good products, at least something. And you don't have as many options as you think you do, It's sad. It's weird. Like Lewitt. Look at Lewitt microphone frequency responses above 1K. It's all lifted and lumpy. There's 4K peak and shit. What the hell, man? Have you ever heard of flat mids and a smooth open clear treble? Of course not.